What is up, YouTube? Chaos Prime here, back at you with yet another video. Yeah, that's right. I'm back with another one after the last video I did. Let's just say that my heart was in the right place, but my head wasn't. I'm sorry for making an idiot of myself. But anyway, that's not why I'm here. Today I'm doing something that I was tempted to do a year ago. I was tempted to wait till this summer to do it, but I figure since a lot of other people are talking about it, why not give my feedback on it? Today I'm going to be giving you my feedback on the 13 possible names for Seattle's potential NHL team. Now I say potential, I say that because, excuse me, just my tongue stops working. They were awarded a bit of expansion about a month ago. It was about a month ago when the Commissioner Gary Bettman announced that Seattle had been awarded a franchise and renovation/construction to Key Arena could begin. Now, granted, I have heard rumors that maybe because of construction, they may have to wait until 2022 before the puck drops, but I'm pretty sure they're going to try to push for 2021. I'm pretty sure whoever said 2022 was lying. But I digress, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about the 13 possible names that were revealed. I say possible. These were names that were submitted by the Oakview Group for potential names of the team. And people have had mixed reactions to these names. Some people really like some of these names. Some people think they're stupid. I'm also going to chime in on a few names that I've also heard that didn't make this list before I reveal my favorites. But let's get started. We'll start at the bottom of the list with Firebirds. Honestly, that just sounds like they're trying to play on the Seattle Thunderbirds, which is Seattle's current minor league hockey team. It just doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound like something that's intimidating. I mean, I don't know, Seattle Firebirds just doesn't sound intimidating. Seattle Eagles. That just, no, doesn't work. I mean, they would be the second bird-themed team in the NHL. I'm presuming the other one's the Penguins. And they would be the third that shares their team with an NFL team. The other two being the Panthers and the Jets. Anybody who's knowledgeable in both hockey and football will know exactly what I'm talking about. So, that's off the list. And we can probably assume we're not going to pick that name. Cougars. Again, doesn't really work. I mean, the Florida Panthers, it works for them because a Panther is native to South Florida. But Cougar, it just doesn't seem very befitting of the city of Seattle. It just doesn't seem very befitting. Wales. Now this one, there's a few reasons why this couldn't work. One of them is because of the team that will be their rivals, the Vancouver Canucks. They use a whale in their logo, and I'm pretty sure their mascot is a whale. So that could cause a little bit of conflict. Also, the Carolina Hurricanes are starting to re-embrace their old Hartford Whalers identity. Now, granted, we probably will not be seeing the Carolina Hurricanes move back to Hartford anytime soon, but they will be bringing out the Hartford Whalers jerseys for a couple of games this season. I know they've done it once this season already. I think the next time they're going to do it is, I think, when they're in Boston. But still, they're making a comeback in some shape or form, if that makes any sense. So they might have a little bit of struggle with that name. Evergreens. Something about that just doesn't make sense. You know, what does, like, trees and nature have to do with hockey? Just doesn't roll off the tongue as well. Seals. And I can also say the same for sea lions. Those creatures, I get that they're sea animals, they're trying to go with the whole maritime theme of the city, but seals and sea lions just doesn't sound very intimidating. I mean, maybe if they were trying to make this team more child-friendly, then maybe this would be the way to go. And also because of the California gold seals that existed back in the day, that could be a little bit of a conflict if they ever want to bring them back. But Who am I to judge? Renegades. I mean, it's a good name, Renegades. But I don't know what they would use as the logo. I mean, it's a good name, but you don't have anything else to go off of besides that. There's no logo concepts or uniforms or what you could use that could sound more intimidating than just the name Renegades. You have to have a logo and a uniform to back it up. Rainiers, named after their mountain. There's only one team I know of who has a mountain-themed name, and that's the West Virginia Mountaineers of the NCAA. Somehow they make it work, but I don't know if it would work for the NHL, naming their team after a mountain. Now these are the names that are popular with the fans, the ones that they're really hoping get picked. One of them is Sockeyes. A lot of people are really getting behind Sockeyes. However, there's one little problem with that name. As some people may or may not know, there is a female author who is stationed in Seattle, and she writes a series of romance novels. And in her books, the team is called the Seattle Sockeyes. And she recently filed trademark on the name, because if, for some reason, Seattle was awarded an NHL franchise and they chose the name Sockeyes, she wouldn't want to have to go back into the books and change everything she knows about the players, the uniforms, the logo. She has her own image in mind for what the logo is like and the uniforms, as well as the roster, so it's unlikely that a name will be chosen. One name that has been suggested as an alternative is Steelheads, which is a very fierce fish native to the Pacific Northwest, and I think they could get behind. I would support it. Totems, a reference to the Pacific Hockey Association team from 1958 to 1974. Now, this is a name that everyone else is endorsing. You know, there's culture involved with the Pacific Northwest and Totems. However, they do have to tread a little carefully because, well, Native American stereotypes. Somehow the Chicago Blackhawks are able to get away with it, but other teams like the FSU Seminoles, the Cleveland Indians, the Washington Redskins, they're not able to. They aren't so lucky. So, they have to be careful with totems, but that's another popular name. But of all these names, the one that I personally like the most is Kraken. Seattle Kraken, that just sounds badass. I mean, it would make for a great logo, uniforms, mascot. I mean, imagine the players about to enter into the ice, and they're on the Jumbotron, and they play that scene from Clash of the Titans, where Zeus says, "Release the Kraken." That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? That's of the 13 names that they've submitted. Steelheads was another one of those names that people have suggested as a backup to Sockeyes. Another name that people have mentioned but probably won't make the cut is Metropolitans, the name of the original hockey team that Seattle had back in the early 1900s, and was the first American team to win the Stanley Cup. This was clear back in 1917, when the Stanley Cup was contested in 5 games instead of 7, and before the NHL was officially formed a few months later. The Seattle Metropolitans were also involved in the first of 2 times the Stanley Cup would not be awarded. In 1919, where the series ended in a draw because of a flu epidemic. There are some people who really haven't gotten behind the Metropolitans. I mean, there's one company that still makes nice wool sweaters of the Metropolitans jerseys. In fact, 2 years ago, the Thunderbirds had Metropolitans Night, where they brought the Stanley Cup for people to take pictures with, and they wore Metropolitans jerseys for the game. And it was a pretty successful game night. So there are people who do want that to get going. There was no mention of which ones are the favorites, but based on what we could tell is that they did point a lot of fingers at a poll they had in their newspaper, where Sockeyes and Steelheads was popular, but Totems and Kraken were not really that popular. When he was in Seattle the other day, Gary Bettman also had a few announcements regarding Seattle hockey. One of them was that, or two of them, was that within the first 7 years of the franchise's existence, They will bring the All-Star Game and the Draft to Seattle. Granted, we don't know exactly when in those 7 years that they will be bringing the Draft or the All-Star Game to Seattle, but we know it's coming. Something that would be really nice is if they hosted a Winter Classic or Stadium Series game at CenturyLink Field. I think that would make for a really, really good thing for the Seattle market. Host an outdoor game at one of the best football stadiums in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, Seahawks fans would drove to CenturyLink Field for this outdoor game. It would be a perfect venue to watch an outdoor hockey game for Seattle. So that's all I have to say about the 13 names and the news that was revealed today. What do you have to say? I guess that's about it. Later, guys. I am out of here.